Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.
Welcome to Peter and Roughie's Football Show, sponsored by Arnold Clark. I'm Peter Martin. Alan Off, Darren Jackson and Hugh McDonald are here with us on this Tuesday. Great to have your company. Don't forget, if you're on Facebook, hit the follow button, share the stream with your friends. And if you are on our Twitter, great to have you with us at PLZ Soccer. And on YouTube, you can join the football family by hitting the subscription button now. Subscribe to PLZ Soccer on YouTube. We'd love to have you as part of the team. You can offer your opinion today. We'll digest as many as possible, try and read out a few and discuss some of these stories today, as well as looking at some of the football that's taking place a little later on tonight. So with that in mind, first little piece of action to talk about is UEFA opened disciplinary proceedings against Glenn Kamara and Andre Kajela of Slavia Prague. Now, Kajela, it looks as if he's going to serve a one-match provisional suspended ban for Slavia Prague until this investigation is over. He didn't travel to London. Slavia Prague are taking on Arsenal in the Europa League. I think he'd picked up an injury against Wales. All seems to fit in nicely, but the investigation is ongoing, Roughie, and hopefully we'll get some kind of resolution on it shortly once all the evidence is assessed.
Yeah, I think we treated it very realistically, that you have to look at all the evidence and you hope if it is racist, then it comes down as heavy as you can under the circumstances. And we knew that these both things, there's delegates at the games, they'll have an observation, they'll put their tuppence worth in as well. And hopefully we come to the right ending, because as I said just there, if it is racist, then it has to be serious. It has to be shown to everybody that we're not going to accept this carry on.
Maybe looking at the possibility of something like a 10-match ban, if indeed the evidence is strong enough to convict him of it, Hugh.
Yeah, I mean, I think UEFA now are in a slot where they've really got to match up the rhetoric on racism or anti-racism with action, and really strong action. Only this week, apart from the Cadella, we saw the Cadiz and Valencia scenes there of racist abuse alleged again there. So it's something that really has to be addressed, because it's endemic in the football culture. It's all right to say, people are saying, it happens very rarely. It happens more than enough, and it happens when it happens. It's got to be hit down hard. I think as well that it could be extended to clubs, Peter. I know it's a big step. But it would certainly concentrate the minds if it was either, not just the individual was punished, but the club as well.
Yeah, the strange thing about it though, Hugh, I mean, I understand where you're coming from. A lot of people are looking and saying UEFA have got to make a stance. They've got to make a stance providing each individual case is proven beyond any reasonable doubt.
Yeah, I mean, that's the case in this one. I think Zungu, the Rangers player, will be, integral to any, any discussion of the Cadella case, and that he should provide, or seems to provide, corroboration. Without that corroboration, anyway, I think the case is pretty persuasive against Cadella. I know that people could say it's his words against Glenn Kamara, but Cadella's explanation, how he went about things, rushing, over to say something to somebody, putting his hand over his mouth, and then saying that what he said was, "You bleep 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 guy."
Yes,
that's not convincing to me, Peter.
No, absolutely not. I mean, I think, when you look, Darren, at Glenn Kamara, and sometimes everything's got to be taken into consideration here. I always look at it and think to myself, well, Glenn Kamara, my God, that boy just goes about his business. He's not what I would call one of those inflammatory players. He certainly is not one of those ones who's always in the limelight. He just strikes me as a boy who goes about his business, and it's very serious when you actually make an allegation. If that's I mean, for me, it would be out of character for the boy, and certainly listening to professionals who have played with him, it would be out of character for him to make such a huge allegation unless something serious was stated to him. But I again counter it by saying, UEFA can only act if they've got this rock solid proof, and Zungu might be the deciding factor in it, Darren.
Yeah, you're 100% right, Peter, and so are the guys. I don't know Glenn Kamara. I don't know anybody that knows him. But you're right, Peter. On the pitch, he gets on with his game. He never gets involved in anything. And that's not to say you take that, as you say, you take that into account on the guy putting his hand over his mouth and what he said. But his reaction, for me, tells everything. And Hugh's right. Zongu's reaction as well, because he's not going to turn round right away if he's not said something racist and have that reaction that Kamara had as well. And I think, as you say, you can't be guilty of reactions, but I think Glenn Kamara and Zongu's reaction tells you everything. And once it's taken to UEFA, I think he should be hammered because we have to stamp this out.
Yeah, we'll wait to see exactly once all the evidence is in what the decision is from UEFA on this one. But that's the latest state of affairs. Other news, something that caught my eye this morning, which again, I have nothing but the utmost respect for Chris Sutton. I know, Roughie, that you and I, when we were launching the company, he was absolutely, listen, he was all over us. He was like, what do you need? He was there to help us. When we started the whole football show thing, I've got nothing but the utmost respect for him. And today I thought it was really, really sad when he was talking about his dad who suffered from dementia, and he sadly lost him on Boxing Day. I think Chris is highlighting something that Jeff Assel's family have highlighted as well, which is basically something has to be done to try and help people, some who can't cover the costs of care for their their loved ones who may well have played professional sport at a very high level, have been heading the ball on a regular basis. I know that only recently we were talking about Hayley McQueen. I think Chris's main fight here is saying, look, the last Premier League deal, £4.4 billion. Why can't the Premier League, the FA, the PFA get together, even a small percentage of that, into a kitty to help families who can't afford care costs? There needs to be something, I think, Roughie, to try and help families who have to deal with this in later life. I don't know whether Chris will get any traction on it, but I wouldn't give up the fight if I was him. I thought he spoke from the heart about how sad watching his dad, who was his hero, just going downhill.
Yeah, well, it's things like that Chris are doing that make people stand up and take notice. It's an illness that's came to the fore. It wasn't an illness that everybody spoke about very readily. There was obviously other illnesses going about, but this is now getting talked more and more. And you would like to think the powers that be who have all that money would show some interest, to put some money aside, because it's not until you actually see it. And I think the both of us, I don't know if you did as well, watched the Sir Jackie Charlton documentary, which was sad, really sad. And although you got to feel sad for for Jack Charlton, it was his wife. It was the way his wife had accepted it and was doing everything in her power to make his life as easy as possible. And they're the people. She seemed to be the people that you need to feel sorry for, as well as obviously the person with the illness. So as it's a family thing, that unless you're experiencing it yourself, you don't really know how difficult it is. So these people should be helped as much as possible, the same as all the other illnesses.
Yeah, and of course the other big thing about it, Hugh, which is going to be ever so difficult, is finding a solution, a cure, a medicine that maybe either slows the process down or stops it getting to a stage where, you forget your whole spirit of your body is lost.
Yeah, but it's hugely difficult. I mean, there has been significant breakthroughs in the last year, as regards treatment and certainly as regards diagnosis. But the fact remains, if you talk to Dr. Willie Stewart of the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Glasgow, who really undertook this research on behalf of PFA in England, and and came up with the absolutely stunning figures about the prevalence of dementia in retired footballers. The thing about it is, it comes down to a basic fact, Peter. If you are heading an object repeatedly, your brain is going to be moving inside your head. It's like it's not quite as severe as boxing, but it can be. But it's the same principle, isn't it? So, no matter what breakthroughs we have, and let's hope that the breakthroughs are sudden and dramatic. The core problem with football, and it'll have to be addressed at one point, is what they do with heading a ball.
Well, Darren, they're talking about maybe even a reduction in training. I know there's a limit even for kids on getting involved in any kind of heading. It's part and parcel of the game, though, Darren. The biggest problem, I think, it's like, you know the dangers when you get into a Formula One car. You know the dangers when you play, high octane sports that have, something that can result in, a critical injury towards you. If you go down the skis and, on the ski slope, you know that there's a potential for you to fall and break your leg. I think a lot of clubs and associations will try and counter, a legitimate case that Chris Sutton is making and many others by saying, well, wait a minute, there has to be some kind of legal statement in a document that if you sign a professional contract, you know what you're getting into and what the long-term problems could be.
Yeah, that's true, Peter. And we have to do everything. Again, as Hugh and Roughie said, we have to do everything to try and help families. But I think the game has changed anyway, Peter. I mean, when you say it's total football now, centre halves play from the back. The ball, like you go and sign a centre half, can he play from the back? It's not, can he go and win the headers? Can he go and fight centre forwards now? It's totally changed. So you're not, the goalkeeper rolls it out to the centre halves and they don't bang it forward to the centre forward and play off him. So I think the game has changed, which will help. But I think it's hard to stop heading in the game because it is part and parcel of the game. Now, can you stop it at a younger level that there's no heading maybe from under 12s down? I'm not very sure. It would help. But if you stop heading in the game, Peter, it's going to be hard. It's not going to be this. It's not going to be the same game. I mean, how do you actually say, right, there's no heading in the game? You can't.
Yeah. No, exactly. I think you're absolutely right on that. I think what we will see coming forward, I'd like to see some kind of investment on, in trying to, in some way, not so much cure the disease, but, work out a way to slow down the process. I mean, is there a kitty for that? Is there a kitty that can legitimately, I think Chris Sutton makes a great point, is there some form of pot that can be put to help professional footballers right across all the clubs in the UK for families that can't cope with the costs? There are some that can, but there could be some kind of pot. But I think there needs to be something that the organisations, the clubs, the associations will look at to say, look, this is part of the game. You need to sign this document that covers this issue. I think that's coming as well. Incidentally, we always like to deal with things that break along the way. Glenn Kamara's lawyer has just tweeted saying a statement will be going out soon on the shocking treatment of Glenn Kamara in comparison to that of Kujela by UEFA. So there's a twist in this plot as it goes on and on. We'll wait to see exactly what that twist is. Other news, Hugh, Don Mackay, Celtic have released a statement. This is what it has to say on the new Celtic Chief Executive, further to an announcement on January 29th, confirming that Don Mackay will be joining Celtic as our new Chief Executive Officer on July 1st. Following the retirement of Peter Lawwell on June 30th, Scottish Rugby have confirmed today their Chief Operating Officer Mackay will be leaving Scottish Rugby on April 16th following a successful handover. Peter Lawwell continues in his role as Celtic Chief Executive Officer and a board member until June 30th. Dom will join the club from April 19th working with Peter and the executive team to ensure a smooth transition until Dom takes on the role of Chief Executive Officer and board member on July 1st. So he's coming in early, makes perfect sense. Work with Peter Lawwell, find out all the pitfalls, Hugh, and then the job's yours.
Yeah, and I'll tell you one thing, he's going to have to hit the ground running. You know, this isn't just a handover of a business that's sailing serenely on. This is a handover of a business where we know they've got to recruit a manager. We know that Eddie Howe's been well tipped and touted, and with reports saying he's just to sign in the dotted line. They've got a director of football they've got to bring in. They've got players to ship out. And they've got a huge number of players, I think a really significant number of players to bring in as well. So that is just on the football side, Peter. I mean, people forget that the chief executive is also liable and responsible for other matters. But the football agenda on its own is onerous. So it's very good news for the club that he's coming in as quick as he can.
Yeah, and with that in mind, Roughie, I'm still amazed. I'm just a hunch. I cannot believe that Peter Lawwell will completely sever all ties with Celtic. I have a feeling that they might look to him in some kind of non-executive director role. I can't see him with all the influence and power he's had over these years, just stepping away completely and cutting all ties, Roughie. I might be wrong.
No, I think there will be some kind of directorship there, whether it's an honorary director or whatever. He'll still want to go to the games. He'll still want to be in that director's box. I mean, he supports the team, so why would he just cut everything, just because he's stepping away? But it's a sensible move. Everything they're doing, as Hughes just went through it all there. There's lots of decisions to be made, and if he can help along the way, the new guy coming in, and I'm sure it'll make it a lot easier for him.
Yeah, I think the big call here, Hugh, with the manager first and foremost, I mean, now we're getting to this stage, which we seem to be getting quite a bit, is Eddie Howe. When's he coming in? And of course, we will, as journalists, you and I both understand, okay, if he's coming in, let's ask Eddie Howe's granny, Eddie Howe's third best mate, what he's like as a person. I've had that non-stop over the last couple of weeks. Harry Redknapp said he's going to be absolutely ideal for Celtic. The one thing that I think is paramount, if it's him, is I think he needs to be given the power to manage the club. I don't think they can start to dilute it again, Hugh. I think he needs to have a similar style to Martin O'Neill on this. I know he wants Richard Hughes in there, but this whole thrust this person upon him, you've got to do this and somebody else will decide this for you, I think is a recipe for disaster.
Well, it seems clear that Howe's the preferred candidate. It seems clear as well that he's had talks with Dermot Desmond, and it would, top of Eddie Howe's list would be, of course, what is the job? Do you want a coach to come in and coach the way they do increasingly in English clubs, but a very much a European model of a coach just comes in and coaches players that have been sourced by the director of football and the board in conjunction with the manager or the coach. So he'll have had the conversation where he'll be saying, I believe, I want as much control as possible. Richard Hughes coming in as director of football would make that a very smooth operation, and they've worked together before. They both each will know the responsibilities. They'll know how far they push and how far they don't push, and how far they can work together. I still think though that, see, if the manager, Peter, or the coach has the power all the time, it places the director of football into a very strange position as well. It's almost like, why would you use a director of football just there to recruit who the manager was and sign off on wages and do contracts? Fair enough. But I know that the European model, the director of football would always be above the manager. Now, that causes tensions and problems, and I don't think that's what's going to happen at Celtic. The director of football model usually in Europe is, it's managing from the top down, and the top down is the director of football.
Well, he won't have any problems if he gets Richard Hughes. He might have them if he's got Fergal Harkin from Man City as his man,
Yep.
and he doesn't have someone in there that he trusts. The biggest problem I think Neil Lennon encountered, Darren, was he didn't get his own management team in there. He had to take 2 or 3 other people that he might not have wanted. He would have wanted, a kind of, people that he could trust in there.
Yeah, Peter, and that's not to say he didn't trust the people that were there, but you need someone beside you that you can sit and have a chat with and know it's not going anywhere. And I think that's with Eddie Howe. I think if it is him and he does want Richard Hughes, I think that would be I think it would be one of his best signings, because Richard Hughes knows everything about Eddie Howe. He knows his philosophy, he knows the players he likes, he knows the left back, what kind of left back he likes, what kind of centre half he likes. So, and he has a trust in him that there's not going to be any conflict between the director of football and the manager. And I think, as I say, I think that could be his best signing if it is Eddie Howe.
I think one of the biggest things are, because there's that many players going to be coming and going, I think the fans need to know who's bringing these players in. I think the biggest problem with Lenny was a lot of people were saying, well, was he the guy you brought in? Did you bring him in? Who brought him in? I think this new manager, I think he will be calling the shots. He'll be, and if he's bringing his mate in, they've got to work in tandem. We can't have a player coming in, and because he's not any good, then everybody else starts getting the blame. He needs to be in sole control of the players that are coming in, because there's so many going to be going out and coming in.
Well, you only have to look at the evidence that's before you, Hugh. Nick Hammond is gone because his record wasn't good.
No, it wasn't. And there can be no argument. And also, there are more than suspicions, Peter, as well, that not only the record not good, but he was signing players that the managerial team weren't, shall we say, as confident in as he was. So this leads to a complete rift in the whole football operation. It's absolutely crucial for Celtic. There's no that dynamic, Peter. Director of football and coach, head coach, manager, whatever you're going to call him, is absolutely crucial at the moment. Crucial at all times, you would say, but particularly so now, given the sort of rate of players going out and the need for players to come in. We can all sit down here and say, who would we have from the Celtic first team now as certain starters next season? There would be very few, because of a mixture of A, loanees returning to clubs, B, players not good enough, and C, players who are going to be traded. It leaves a bit of a rump when you look at that, Peter. And that has to be addressed very, very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, you can give us your view on the Celtic situation. An announcement is expected this week on Eddie Howe, and speculation that he might not even join up until June. I have my doubts on that if he's going to be announced as the manager. What's keeping him? Selling his house? You can give us your view on that. As far as some news on someone extending their stay in Scotland, James Tavernier has signed a new deal and he will stay with the club until 2024. It's been a good time for James and I think well worthy of the deal, Roughie. And I think it's only right and proper to highlight the fact that, a couple of years back, there's a lot of fans maybe looking and thinking they could do without James Tavernier at Rangers, but he's made of sterner stuff.
Yeah, I think there would be a lot of Rangers fans out there saying he wasn't worthy to be a Rangers captain, never mind good enough to be on the park. But he's worked hard, and when you work hard on the park, and if you do particularly well, you deserve to get a contract. You deserve to get a good contract, and he's certainly done enough to get a good contract. I'm sure there will be some players at Rangers getting a better contract than him at the moment. But I think he's done everything in his power to make sure that he is worthy of being a Rangers captain. And I don't think the people that were complaining before have got any complaints now. I think he's matured into both a good player and a good captain. 17
goals, 15 assists, Darren. Okay, a lot of penalties, but penalties still have to be scored. He's at a really fantastic season. I mean, he gets my vote for Player of the Year, albeit that there are some making a late push.
Yeah, Peter, I can remember, I think it's when I first started on the show, that people were saying he should be left out. And I actually said, if you want to look back, I'm sure I said that the manager would stick by him because he does well for them. Now, defensively, James Tavernier's never been a brilliant defender. He's become a better defender, but his assets are going forward. His delivery is absolutely fantastic. And James Tavernier isn't a great player because he scores, I don't know, 10 penalties this year. It makes him a very good penalty taker. But it's his delivery and getting in at the back stick and scoring goals, the way he passes the ball. He's really been brilliant this year. And I've said probably the goalkeeper, Goldson, Barisic and Tavernier and Edward for player of the year. But sorry,
Davis.
Listen, you know my opinion, and Steve Davis is a very good player as well. Do you know what I mean? An excellent player. Has he played enough games to be player of the year? But I think you're right, Peter. I think Tavernier, and people will probably listen. It could Goldson, it could be McGregor. But Tavernier's had a fantastic year, and he deserves his new contract. He's been brilliant.
Yeah. Hugh, would you get your vote?
For player of the year, probably not, Peter, though I would not argue with anybody that did give him it. Probably what takes the shine off it a wee bit is he hasn't been playing lately. That's not his fault, his injury. I think my player of the year would be Alan McGregor, and I think it was because it's really incredible for a club that's going to win the league in a canter to have a goalkeeper who's so influential and vital to their hopes, to their successes, to the actual momentum of the season. At times when the season, and it seems daft enough now to look back, but at times when the season might just have not quite gone off track, he was there to keep it steady and on track with some fantastic saves. But I wouldn't argue with. I mean, all I would say I would say quite categorically and easily that would have to be a Rangers player. My list of Rangers players down, I would say McGregor top for me, Davis second, Tavernier third. I wouldn't quibble if the order was reversed.
Yeah, Roughie, who gets your vote?
I would go Alan McGregor basically because he made the big saves at the right time. The save against Celtic was superb. You know, the save, but I keep hearing you telling me you can't get a goalkeeper a player of the year. You can't get a goalkeeper. Well, you can't get a goalkeeper player of the year. You can't get a fullback player of the year. Come on.
Yeah. Well, you should have seen Sepp Mayer's face, Roughie, when I said to him in the 1974 German Player of the Year event, he was miffed. And Dino's off as well. And Lev Yashin. I'm trying to think of all the great goalkeepers. In fact, if my memory serves me correct, I am almost certain that maybe, Hugh, you might be able to help me here. I think Lev Yashin might be the only one of goalkeepers that's maybe won European Footballer of the Year. I might be wrong.
I think you're right. I mean, the only one I would be thinking about is Buffon, but Buffon's not won the Champions League, so he's unlikely to have won the European. So I think I'm just wondering, did Roughie ever win Player of the Year? I mean, I know he was in Scotland squads that won Player of the Year. Did Roughie ever have a year that he won either the Writers or the Players Award?
Yeah, I got the sympathy vote for the Writers.
Did you? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. What year was that you won it?
82.
82. 82, you won Player of the Year.
Yeah, I was nominated 4 times for the Players Player of the Year, but never got any further than that.
Yeah, but you won the Football Writers in 1982?
Yeah.
Wow, Charlie Nicholas was playing then, and they gave you it. That is incredible, Roughie.
I had a great season.
Roughie, that's how you are, by the way.
And
that's incredible.
Yeah, and I think I got Andy Ritchie the year after me.
Brilliant. Well, listen, Roughie, you were some goalkeeper. You well deserved. And of course, the journals know what they're talking about anyway.
Yes.
What about the old Colt teams, Roughie? I noticed there's been a poll taken, and we'll have a poll, which basically says 16% of lower league fans would watch their team against the Old Firm Colt. But 80% of Celtic and Rangers fans said they would watch their second string sides play. That's not a big amount of people in the lower league fans that are backing this Colts into the lower leagues. But I think, I don't know, but you, Roughie, I think it will generate money that will go into the coffers and strengthen these sides. I think slowly but surely the fans might come round to the way of thinking of the chairman and the chief executives in the lower league clubs.
Yeah, I think the clubs are already convinced they're getting 20,000 a year over 5 years, which is a lot of money for the teams in the second division. And I agree with you. I think the fans will buy into seeing some of the good young Celtic players and the good young Rangers players. I mean, as we speak, there's enough of them playing in these divisions anyway. You know, I don't know what the total would be of Rangers and Celtic young boys out plying their trade in other leagues throughout Scotland. I bet you'd be up 20, 25 at least. So, you know, if they were to hold them all back in again and put them in a consolidated team, I think they'd be good to watch, because I've seen some of the young Celtic players that are out there and some of the good Rangers players that are out there, and they would be a very good team. So I think they'd be entertaining to watch, as long as the rules are, and everybody knows the rules, there's no promotion. I think they would be an asset.
Yeah, no doubt about it from a learning curve view for Celtic and Rangers, but I think it would be great for other players and other teams to actually get that sense of, you know, playing to a packed stadium, because some of the games would be packed out as the lower league players start to get used to a real crowd scene on a regular basis.
I think so as well. I think the neutrals will buy into it, Peter. I mean, if you're standing there, you know, if you're a Celtic, a Rangers supporter, and tickets are hard to come by, whether it be an away game or you don't have a season ticket, and you're sat on a Saturday morning with two kids and you can go along and to say Stenhousemuir or whatever, and watch, you know, somewhere pretty local to you with your two kids, a reasonable price entry. I think people will buy into it. So I think it'll be good for clubs as well, because their hospitality will be bigger on those days as well. I think it'll be great for the players of Celtic and Rangers, because we talk about it all the time with footballers like Darren and Roughie and Steven Naismith and Charlie Adam, guys that are on the show, who all are advocating all the time that young players have got to play with men. They've got to play real competitive games to come on. So I think it'll be good for them, and it'll be good for the opponents as well, because, as you say, running out in front of a few thousand with a good atmosphere with some point to prove as well, because these players in the opposition will have a point to show the youngsters as well. So yeah, I think it's a no-brainer. I've always found, I can understand people being sniffy about it. Oh no, Rangers and Celtic just come into their divisions. I think, okay, I accept all that, but I think for all what they call in business, all the stakeholders, it's a positive move.
Yeah, the only thing is, Darren, is a lot of people, quite a few people on here are saying, why only Celtic and Rangers Colt teams?
Well, Peter, I thought the other ones were invited in as well. I mean, take an Aberdeen, Hearts, Hibs, Dundee United. I think they should all think about it, because like you would speak about Celtic and Rangers, and I think, as Hugh said, it's a no-brainer for everybody. For, like, say an Edinburgh City is playing Celtic at their home ground, there's bound to be Celtic fans go along. There's bound to be more, maybe Edinburgh City fans go along. A wee guy saying to his dad, can we go along and see the Celtic players today? And then you can imagine the buzz of the Edinburgh City players winning that game. They've beaten Celtic. It doesn't matter if it's just the kids. Celtic are in that league. And then the flip side is, I think Rangers, Celtic, Hearts, Hibs, the young players would benefit, and it would push them on towards the first team, because, again, as Hugh's saying, they're playing men's football every week. They have to win. Where you go into a reserve game, yes, you go into every game to win, but does it really mean that much that there's nothing really at the end of it? Yes, they play in a league, but to win that league would be something special for them. So I think, again, it's a no-brainer, and everybody wins out of it.
Yeah. Roughie, you were going to add something there?
I was going to say most of the teams in the second division have got maybe crowds of 300, 350. And if you get another 50 people coming into that ground, that's 500 quid, that you've no got. So for the financial point of view, it's a no-brainer for me because, as Dan said, there will be circumstances where there'll be more than 50 going to the games because they'll want to see the young players that they've got at their club and they're coming through. But I think you'll find the Aberdeens and the Hibs and the Hearts would buy into it as well. Obviously in the other regions, maybe an East region or something, or the North region. So yeah, I think it seriously should be looked at.
Yeah, okay. Darren, what about your old team last night? Managed to see our Queen of the South.
Which one's that?
This is Hibs. So they managed a 3-1 win, and if they get past Stranraer, it's Motherwell or Morton in the 5th round. So no shocks last night for them.
No shocks. It was quite comfortable in the end. Obviously a tough pitch to go and play on. But they were very, very professional. It took them a little bit of time to get their first goal, but once they got the first goal, it kind of settled them down, and they were worthy winners, Peter. And it's always a hard one. You think could there be a wee upset, but it looked as though the players' attitude and mentality to the game was very, very good, and that's why they won the game.
Yeah, I quite like the attitude, Hugh, at the moment of Jack Ross, who says this is a real chance for Hibs to win the Scottish Cup.
Yeah, well, certainly, you could say that there's a pathway to the final. Also, because what you do know is that one of Celtic or Rangers are definitely out, so there's going to be an addition at one stage for at least one non-Old Firm finalist. So that opens it up for everybody, and Jack Ross is quite right to target that. His team's third in the league. They're coming back into a bit of form after a patchy run. I think they've certainly middle to front. They've been, they've got very good players. I like Boyle. I like Naismith, of course, as well. Dodge had a good night last night. If they can get their defensive organisation correct as well, they've got good players there. Hanlon and Porteous are decent players, and Dan McGregor never lets anybody down when he comes in. So, yeah, I mean, why not? Why not just say, yeah, this is a tournament we're in to win. Yep, I don't have anything against that attitude, Peter.
Yeah, and before I go on to the next point, Hugh, I'm a bit worried because obviously now we've given you the technology so that you can relax and you're not hurting your back and you're sitting there in your fantastic leather couch. Is there any forward planning now to add some classic old frames behind you of great games, strips or anything? We're worried about that bland magnolia that you've got there.
Well, that was my COVID. This is my COVID thing, Peter, was to take everything down because I was going to get it all painted and get the pictures up and get it all sorted. But a global pandemic has intervened. So once the pandemic is, the workies will be up and we'll be getting the photos up of various German stadiums and Scottish football players and New York scenes. I've got a few New York scenes to go up. I don't have Darren and Roughie's, strips to go up or anything like that, or your memorabilia, Peter. So it's, but I've got bits and pieces.
Yeah, and if I could give you 3 strips framed that you would love behind you, can you pick the 3 players, any era? 3 players framed behind you.
Well, I'll tell you what I'd love for sentimental reasons now because of my Dortmund days is I love a Lambert. If you can source the Lambert Cup final, European Cup final, where he has Zidane in his large back pocket, I'll take that one, Peter.
Yep.
I'll take Billy McNeil's. Lisbon one, if you can source that. And
Okay.
the third one I'll take is I'll take Dennis Law, also 67, his shirt. No, in fact, I won't. I'll take Jim Baxter's shirt from 1967, Wembley.
Yeah, that's three really good tops there, Roughie.
That's amazing. He's picked the 3 that you've got. Can't believe that.
Yeah, absolutely. I would have had Billy Bremner's Scotland top with the number 4 on the back had Roughie not sold it half an hour before I got there, Hugh. I mean, that's when you know you're raging. Before I actually got together with him, I was raging about that. But anyway, listen. As soon as I said that, there's that amount of people that are picking their own 3 favourites that they'd have up behind them as well. No point in asking Darren because he missed out on Ronaldo's shirt in the opening game, Roughie. I mean, honestly, it's a no-brainer. You're playing in the opening game against Brazil. Go over to Ronaldo and say, "Listen, big man, the Jacko wants your shirt at the end of the game, Roughie." It's a no-brainer.
Yeah, you just follow him a bit. That's what Jimmy Nick did. Just follow him a bit. Last 10 minutes, just keep giving him the ball.
You forget, Roughie, Craig Brown's tactics where Darren dropped back into a 10 back line here to make sure they don't score. Anyway.
I was taken off the last 10 minutes. You normally follow them for the last 10 minutes. I was taken off, so it wasn't until I got on at the end to say, I asked him, "Could I get your strip?" And he says, "In the tunnel, Wacko." And I just said, "No bother," and I just walked right to the tunnel, just stood at the tunnel waiting for them coming in, and Junior Baiano came off and he went, "You want to go swap strips?" I was like, "Oh no." Okay then. So
yeah, absolutely. If I was you, Darren, I would have, if it was me, I would have quickly run back into the dressing room, get my second Scotland top on, and then get right back out into that tunnel to get the Ronaldo one.
No, but the second one, Peter, the second one I wanted to keep. The second one I wanted to keep for myself. No.
We played East Germany over in East Germany, and the East German coach came in at the end of the game and said, "Who wants to swap jerseys?" And everybody said, "Yeah, fine, great." So everybody put their jerseys in a big bundle, and the East German coach went away with all their jerseys. 10 minutes later, they come back with clatty old T-shirts, no numbers on them or anything. Must have been their training jerseys or something like that. I don't honestly. You should have seen their dressing room. They're all going mental.
Yeah, knowing a few people who are related in the family from East Germany, Roughie, I'm not surprised. Tight times over there at that time, to be perfectly honest with you. Nicola Sturgeon is optimistic, Hugh, of fans attending the Euros in Scotland, which is great news. I thought you might say that. Obviously, there are votes to be won. Hugh, dare I be cynical about all this, but I think on a genuine basis, the First Minister is looking at the way the figures are going and thinking, yep, we can get some kind of safe social distancing going to watch football.
I'd be terrific. What a golden ticket that would be, Peter. Waiting.
Oh yeah.
20 odd years for for Scotland to qualify for a major tournament, and suddenly you get not only a game at Hampden but a game at Wembley. I mean, I'm of the era, Peter, where the Wembley trip every 2 years was a rite of passage and a ritual for Scottish football supporters. And even when it was 100,000, tickets were very difficult to source, and people were after tickets. So we wonder what it'll be like now when it's going to be single figures in thousands. What are they talking about, Peter? 5,000 perhaps? Maybe rising
between
to
three.
Optimum. Yeah,
3 to 5,000.
3 to 5,000. So imagine what even Roughie. I'll be on to Roughie as soon as the programme ends, looking for a couple of complimentaries from him, so I can go down. But I mean, it's going to be. But having said that, isn't it great, Peter? We know it's not what we want. We know it's not what it should be in terms of a major tournament packed with fans, but it is a step back towards normality. And I mean, I watched the Scotland-Israel game, and it wasn't great just to see some supporters in the stand. It was like a breath of fresh air just to see, normality is returning.
Long may it continue. Scotland friendly ties against the Netherlands and Luxembourg in June. 2nd of June against the Netherlands in Portugal, and Luxembourg on June 6th. So that's quite good. And the Euro 2020 campaign starts against Czech Republic. on June
Is
14th.
San Marino no available? No.
No,
Do we just
no.
go
We
for
want to try.
Luxembourg?
No, we're taking on big games. We're taking on big games, Roughie. Nevertheless, it's getting fans in to see the games is the key to all this, and I don't think there's any way back. Just out of curiosity, Hugh, you mentioned there, and I know you weren't working in football at the particular time, but if going to Wembley was, something that you regularly did with your mates, did you go there knowing Roughie was in goal, and were you complimentary about him?
Well, I actually was, because, one of my early memories of Wembley, Peter, is hammering down there overnight in a Toyota Corolla with 3 other people in it, right? Hammering down, eventually getting to London, parking the car somewhere and walking towards Wembley, the North Towers, and suddenly saying to yourself, because we've partaken of pre-match beverages, we're leaving us a bit of tight, so we had to absolutely sprint to get to the game. We sprinted to get to the game, just got in, ran up the stairs, they kicked off, and 20 minutes later we were 3 down. And we're all looking at each other and saying, well, it's going to be a long drive back to Glasgow tonight, There's not going to be any... that was the famous 5-1 Tonking. So, yes, I've got very good memories. Roughie's got a tremendous record at Wembley. Have you not, Alan?
Yeah, I've got 2 out of 2, yeah.
Brilliant, Roughie.
2-1,
Magnificent.
2-1 and 1-0. Yeah. But you're saying the fans enjoying it. The players enjoy it just as much, sitting in the team bus, driving along the road, watching all the supporters getting up to their antics and all that. It is a light-hearted journey all the way into Wembley, watching all the supporters. It's hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just touching on that with the fans, can you remember when we were driving to the Stade de France and Big Brian Martin with his Scotland strip on that he had represented his country with, steaming with his pals, singing away and all that, and it was just that just, even Craig was just like that. There's ex-players who's actually, Brian might have played in one of the qualifying games, and so it is brilliant to see, and it would magic for the players to have people, and even 5,000 would make a hell of a difference.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Brian. He was a great junior player and a great player for Motherwell as well. And would you believe it? He only chucked playing with us at Dukla Pumferson in the last couple of years. That's how long he's still kicking a ball. Great lad. Great lad. The only worry I've got, Roughie, is Kieran Tierney. It looks as if there's going to be a scan today. The knee injury is a worry. Mikel Arteta's worried about it. He had to come off against Liverpool.
Yeah, as soon as you mention scan, it's a worry for every club, because obviously you don't know what's going to show up. You just keep your fingers crossed it's not anything to do with what he's had in the past, and he can come back as quick as possible. But we'll just have to wait and see what that scan is. It just shows you how thorough it was. I don't think Dan would ever get sent to a hospital at Hibs for a scan. If anything happened to him, you'd be shoved on the treatment table and just sit there. Just keep coming in every day. Your leg's better, son. Wouldn't be going for a scan.
Yeah, the old days. Anyway, apart from anything else, we always like to keep our eye on people who are Scottish, who are doing well elsewhere, and one of them is Davy Moyes. I watched a fantastic game last night. It was West Ham winning against Wolves. They're in the top 4. They've got a chance to make the Champions League next season, and Davy himself says it ain't no fluke.
I don't know if we can finish there. The teams around us are much stronger, more equipped, been there, done it many more times. We've not. So why should we not try and enjoy it? And I've been a manager, I've been around a lot. So I've decided to say, well, we're going to go for it. We're going to see if we can do it. If we fall short, then we fall short.
Well, I'll tell you right now, Roughie, I mean, we've been he's a mate of mine anyway, and I'm his big fan. But if ever, a lesson in giving someone time to do things his way, there it is there at West Ham.
Yeah, he's that big a pal of yours. He had you eating black squid. So there you go. That shows you what kind of pal he is. I can imagine.
Terrible,
no, good luck to him. The Man United thing must have really hurt him. and he had to move about until he got the right job at the right time, and he's got it. I actually watched the highlights of that game last night. I thought I had my phone on fast forward. What about the speed some of these players? Going back to front. I mean, absolutely electric. I've never seen the boy up front who scored the goals. He was absolutely amazing for the halfway line. Yeah, for the halfway line, nobody could catch him.
Well, to be fair, by the way, the game has changed, Hugh. If Ron Chopper Harris was still playing, Lingard wouldn't have got another 10 yards away. Even the boy Traore has got speed like you've never believed.
Oh, Traore's like an athlete. I mean, he's like a sprinter. See the way he's bulked up as well. I mean, if Ron Chopper Harris was about, Jesse Lingard would have played the second half at outside right and outside left. It'd be split in two. But the interesting thing about Lingard, Peter, is this is another. I think Davy Moyes is in pole position. It sounds incredible when Pep going for a quadruple, a very, got a very strong chance, or a decent chance of quadruple. But David Moyes must be in the argument for manager of the season. I mean, West Ham to be challenging for Champions League. I mean, everybody at the start of the year would be saying, see if you can keep away from, 18, 19 and 20. That's a good season for you. If you can sit about 14th or maybe a good cup run. An interesting thing about it as well is both his recruitment's been strong, but I think Lingard sums it all up here. I thought Lingard was a bit of a busted flush. He was obviously disillusioned at Manchester United. He was in the... It would certainly seem to me at least a big gamble to get Lingard on loan, especially as the money they had to, because they're paying good money to get him on loan. And it's been a move that's been absolutely brilliant for both of them, because Lingard now is asking the question of Gareth Southgate, which would seem preposterous in January, and he's added something to that West Ham team. By the way, as well, Pierre, just to finish, and David, I'm giving you the longest answer possible here, but finish it. He's kind of traduced as a very safety-first manager and pragmatic. I've watched a lot of West Ham this season, and they've been terrific to watch. Absolutely terrific to watch.
Yeah, you're right. And of course, it helps Darren. He knows the type of backroom guys that he wants, and he brought in Stuart Pearce. And that, I like Stuart Pearce. I thought he was a great, great player. And he would have been working tirelessly on that defence as well, make them solid, hard to beat. And then you've got the flair and the pace and the counter-attack.
Oh, you look at Stuart Pearce, Peter, you could probably say old school. You know what I mean? The way he played, I played against him for Newcastle against Forest. Terrifying. But a wonderful, talented player as well. And it's getting his own staff in. And it's the second time around for him at West Ham. And Peter, as you say, you're pals with him. And I know winning games can relax you, but the pressure's off. The pressure he's got now that he obviously would love to go for the top four and qualify for the Champions League. And as I say, you know him a lot better than me. Do you not think he just looks relaxed now? Now, it might just be he's getting a bit older and he's saying to himself, well, let's not just try and take this too serious. I'm enjoying this. I've got players that are going out and enjoying it as well, and enjoyment comes from winning games. But I think Moisey looks a lot more relaxed than he has over the last, I don't know how many years, Peter.
Yeah, well, listen, he's older and wiser, and would you believe it? When some clubs wouldn't touch him, he was contemplating going to manage in America. That's how, the stupidity of that whole Manchester United thing affected him. But listen, great to see him doing well, and long may it continue. And I hope he gets a bumper deal at West Ham that gives them the chance to build something special there. Because, people are romanticised about West Ham, but for me, they want to try and start achieving something and maybe winning a bit of silverware. That's what being a successful club is, not about playing lovely tippy-tappy football and in the end get to the quarterfinals of a cup, and that's your lot. But I think if they invest in him, they'll go somewhere. Tonight there's 2 Champions League games. Roughie, I don't know which one I know Hugh's going to watch Man City against Borussia Dortmund. I'm going to watch Real Madrid against Liverpool for obvious reasons, Roughie. Where's your heart going to go to tonight?
Well, obviously I'm PSG, but I'm quite sure they'll come away with a draw tonight and get in the second leg. But no, And just something about when Real Madrid come local. I know the Real Madrid of old, but they've just got something, and I think that'll be a fantastic game tonight.
Yeah, okay, Real Madrid against Liverpool. Hugh, you're Man City, Dortmund. You've got to be, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, another thing as well, just talking to the laddie, that would be a game that we would have been at tonight. I'd have been down in Manchester for that. I've definitely gone down. The only hope for Dortmund tonight is that Pep does a Pep, and by that I mean that in the Champions League, every now and again he has a ricket, Peter. You know that he hasn't taken Man City to a Europe, a Champions League semi-final, never mind a final. He never came close with Bayern Munich, and he had a couple of, we know he won it twice with Barcelona, but given that Barcelona team, I don't think that was an overachievement. So every now and again, Pep in the Champions League, I think overthinks it, Peter. I think we saw against Lyon last year, going out against the seventh best team at the time in France in the quarterfinals of the Champions League isn't a stellar result. So that's the only hope you have as a Dortmund fan. Peter, Dortmund have lost 10 games in the league this season. 10 games in the league. Dortmund now are very, very long odds to qualify for the Champions League. They're 7 points off a Champions League place, so they're not in a good place at the moment, Dortmund. So it should be, if you look at the analysis, very much a Manchester City win. But as I say, I just hope that Pep has a wee brain fade tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. If he does, then Haaland could be all over it. But Darren, where's your viewing going tonight? Is it going to be Real or is it going to be Man City Dortmund?
My viewing is going Capello, Morton v Inverness. Wow. That's where I'm going tonight.
Of course. Yeah.
So yeah. I'll enjoy. Peter, is the Real Liverpool game getting played at the training ground or the Bernabeu? Because there's loads of work getting done at the Bernabeu just now.
Yeah, I think it'll be back on the training ground again. And not that it matters, there's no fans getting in anyway.
I know that, but obviously, yeah. I didn't know where it would be played, but yeah, I'll be at sunny Capello. Looking forward to it.
We nearly made it to Manchester one last year, Darren. Just didn't quite happen. We didn't think we were going to be here a year later, still unable to go to a game. But nevertheless, anyway,
and we'll not make it now, Peter. We've not got that.
No, exactly. But listen, we'll get a van. Don't worry about that. I'm amazed Hugh mentioned something that took me back, Roughie. Hugh mentioned there a car that's no longer exists, but he said he travelled down to Wembley in an old Toyota Corolla. My mate and I, we bought an old Toyota Corolla for 50 quid and headed off down to Blackpool for the weekend. We got a flat for a tenner, Roughie, and what a weekend we had there. And the Toyota Corolla was a great wee runner there and back, Roughie. 50 quid, fantastic.
Yeah, I think it was one of the cars of the generation. I think everybody wanted a Toyota. I don't know about the Corolla, but Toyota was a very popular make then.
Yeah, no, we just wanted it because it was 50 quid, Roughie.
That's it.
Exactly. And we're still writing to the couple we met down there. Anyway, apart from anything else, good football to watch tonight. Wherever you're watching your football, enjoy it. We'll reflect on the Champions League tomorrow. We'll obviously give you an update on the Glenn Kamara situation and wait for that tweet to come out. And of course, wait and see if there's any movement on the decision. Will Eddie Howe be announced tomorrow? Who knows? All sorts of things to talk about. Don't forget to follow us on our Facebook and hit the subscribe button on the YouTube. To Roughie, Darren Jackson, Hugh McDonald, and from myself, Peter Martin, to you, thanks for watching.
Expect the best used car deals guaranteed. Visit arnoldclark.com.